We're here with another Mr. Kang, Alex Tiger Rack O2 Masterclass.
Oh, God.
This guy is the encyclopedia of powerlifting. Okay, so Mr. Kang.
What?
What happened, Mr. Kang? All right, ready?
Fuck, man, don't do that next time. Shit.
Ready? Ready?
Okay.
Ready? So Alex, today we're gonna demonstrate the bench press.
From a powerlifting point of view, I want to move the bar in a straight line. So if you, let's say you have a lot of these benchers, they don't go as wide and they're talking like this,
Right.
like this, and then they're moving
Right,
the
I've seen
bar
that.
like this.
Like that's how I do it. So that's not the most efficient way.
Right. The most efficient way is to keep the elbows underneath the bar and keep it in a straight path, reduce range of motion.
Yeah, so I used to be really obsessed with those bench press because people always ask, the first question they ask you is how much you bench if you find out you lift weights. So so I wanted to bench a lot, and my best record was 300 bench at 150 pounds raw. Right, so when I was
doing, yeah.
Right, he spotted that one. So, but I didn't make a video of that because I was back like 10 years ago. I didn't make videos yet. But I was looking up like bodybuilding techniques because I just wanted to move big weights. And I noticed that a lot of people recommend leg drive. Do you do a leg drive? Like you use your leg to drive?
Oh
up
yeah,
the weight?
definitely. Yeah. So I mean,
So explain the leg drive.
when I'm
Okay, this is now for people who just want to bench really big, or it's the powerlifting way.
okay, so you really want to drive your heels through the floor, so you get some power transfer. So let me give you an example.
Driving your heels to the floor will transfer power to your bench press. Alright, get her feet. You know how to jump. Alright.
Okay, so now this helps me develop the arch, and now I can push my heels through the floor as I'm pressing. Okay.
Okay, so when you do an arch, that goes along with the drive. Basically, if you want to good drive, you have to arch your back, and arching your back creates less distance.
Right.
So that.
Yeah, they go in tandem.
They go in tandem. So okay, show us again. This is the most efficient bench press weight.
So I have a lot of tension built like this through here.
A lot of tension. So this also activates your lats.
Right.
So when you bench like this, you're basically not just benching with your chest. You're benching with your whole body.
Actually, I think the most important part here is to keep the upper back tight. That's going to be your foundation for your bench press. So if you have a loose back, your bench press is going to be extremely weak.
So you have an arch and keep the lats activated.
Right. So my erectors, my upper back are very tense right now.
Okay, very tense. This is very hard. It's like a rock right here. Okay. So basically you're activating your whole body by doing that.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay, so bench press.
So a weak bench press will only activate a portion of your upper body, but a strong bench press will actually engage everything. It's going to be engaging your legs, your back especially. Your upper back is super important for the bench.
So this is Jerry again. So basically Alex demonstrated the powerlifting bench press. Jerry here has another perspective, and he's going to demonstrate the bodybuilder's bench press.
So when I started out, the bench press was my worst exercise. I was the weakest at it. I had a small, flat chest, and my shoulders were growing. I couldn't figure out what the deal was. And back then, I didn't really have anybody to tell me what was going on. But I watched the bigger guys bench, the guys doing the powerlifting. They would get that arch, and I kind of fiddled around until I felt like, okay, my shoulders were back, and that's where I had the power from. Now, like Alex mentioned, there's different ways to put your hands. Now, when I was being taught to bench, the bigger guys had longer arms, some of them had shorter arms. So I noticed when I was trying to bench, it felt awkward. I'd feel a pull on my pec tendon more when I was going wider, like when Alex benches wider. So what I did was actually move the grip around till I figured out where it felt better for me, and I pushed through the pec. Because as a bodybuilder, you're not trying to push through everything else. You want the chest.
You just want the chest.
The
where
chest
he's like, he
activated.
wants to lift as much weight as he can, so he's trying to use everything he can.
Use the power. So it wasn't so much about the power that was coming from the bench. It was trying to stimulate the pecs.
Okay.
And if you look at the basic kinesiology of it, anytime you're crossing the arm across the body, that's the pec. So whether it's a bench press, a fly, a cable, even if it's a dip. If you're doing a dip, it's like a decline bench. When you're going down from your shoulder to your elbow, it's the same exact movement over and over again. So the more weight that you could use for the hypertrophy stage is how you're going to get those pecs to grow. So I went from, at that point I had done steroids too. So at 270 pounds, I had a 500-pound bench with a pair of wrist wraps on. No belt, no gear, no nothing. And I was doing 405 for reps. And I was getting those reps with more of a closer grip because as I reached out, my wrists would hurt and that pec tendon would hurt because it's not just for one rep with the power, you're trying to push to the pec. So I actually noticed that like a closer grip, and where Alex said to keep the elbows in line, my elbows actually were kind of like tucked in a little bit as opposed to having them flared out.
So tucking in activates the chest more. Basically.
I felt it because you're actually pulling that arm again across the section of your pec, and that's what you're trying to get that contraction. And then you can do stuff like if you're looking specifically for pec development, like a pre-exhaust. So you could do something like a fly, not a fly like a dumbbell fly, which is in a stretch position, but a contracted position like a cable crossover or a fly machine, which will fatigue the muscle before you even get there. So now your delts and stuff are fresh, but the pecs are fatigued. So they're going to pull more work than the rest of the body parts that are accessory body parts.
Let's say if you switch to his style, would you go instantly bench more?
Instantly, I don't know, because there was technique that he has that I never had. So if I'd been taught the technique, you know, it might have been. Mine was just raw power, you know, from the muscle strength itself, and it never was a goal to get up there in that weight.
More hypertrophy.
It was. I was trying to train harder and harder to try to, and as the muscle got bigger, it got stronger. But like he said, my squats sucked. I had like a 225 squat and a 500-pound bench. It was ridiculous. The ratios.
There's no correlation.
Yeah, I mean, my deadlift was even worse. My deadlift was like 200 pounds, and I had a 500-pound bench at 270 pounds.
So this is going to be a demo. Driving through the pack, right?
Driving through the pack. Now, very similar to what Alex does with his feet. I learned that like some people like put their feet up on the bench and stuff.
Yeah.
For me, it was more stability. So I would want a wider stance when I was benching. It didn't matter whether it was the heels or the toes, as long as I had that stability.
Right.
You know, nowadays.
So you don't drive. You don't do the
no
like
driving. It was all through the chest because it wasn't about the power of moving the bar. It was trying to feel.
Right. So if you do a little drive, you might even take away from the pack. So
I don't know. I really don't know. It was like I said. It was. Bodybuilding is more about the mind-muscle connection than is just moving the weight.
Right.
So I don't even know what my feet were doing. Maybe they were driving, maybe they weren't. I
okay,
have no clue.
Okay.
You know, obviously, if you're lowering the bar on the way down, your lats are, you know, being stimulated on the way down. But all you really felt was your pec when you pushed through. So when I started training, I would have about a medium grip. My shoulders are rolled forward. So now what was happening? I was pushing at the shoulders. When I figured out to rotate my shoulders back.
So you're contracting your shoulder blades.
Shoulder blades are contracted. Now, you can see my grip is a medium grip, and I do keep the bar in my palm with my wrists back. As I come down, I touch the lower pec line and explode up. Now, as you get more advanced, I take my triceps out of it, I would touch the chest and push to here.
Oh, okay.
Now you have constant tension on the muscle, and you're not using the triceps. Because when you're powerlifting, you want that locked all the way up so that you get the green light. But as a bodybuilder, if you can fatigue the muscle by not locking the triceps out, now you're stimulating more growth.
Well, what about people who just bench halfway, don't let me touch the chest?
Again, like
is that a technique or is that people just cheating?
Well, it's
what'd you say?
both.
Cowards.
They just want to do more.
There are some people that have a very tight pec tendon,
Right.
and as they go down, you can feel that. Like I mean, I remember the bigger my pecs got, as I went down, you could feel that stretch. I actually eventually did this year wound up tearing my pec on the bottom, and I didn't even know I torn it. It was on like maybe the 6th or 8th rep with 315, and all of a sudden it just popped. So as you go down, some of these people may be feeling that and saying, well, you know, I feel like it's going to tear, so they stop. Other people go down because they're scared to bring the weight down and not come back up with it. So like, you know, and other people, again, will use a constant tension where they're not even all the way down. They're like in the mid-range. So it's not all the way down or all the way up. Because as you go down, the front delt actually loads some of the load too. So what they're trying to do, if they're using technique and they're not just cowards, they're trying to take the tricep out of the top, the front delt out of the bottom, and stay all in the pec area in the middle.
So you see someone benching halfway, maybe they're not a coward, they're just using it as a technique.
How do their pecs look? If their pecs are great,
then
and they're a bodybuilder,
then who cares,
that's the thing about bodybuilding. Powerlifting. Powerlifting has very strict rules about what you have to do. You have to get the weight up. You have to make it a good lift. It has to be controlled on the way down. It has to be paused. With bodybuilding, it's open to artistic interpretation. You can do anything you want.
As long as you're able that.
Right. There's no set
sexy
grips.
pack.
No set, you know, people like, you have to bench with your hands like this. Well, that's very uncomfortable in my pec tendon. This is more comfortable. So what's proper form? Proper form for me, because of the bone lengths and leverage factors in my body, are here, not here. You know what I mean? That goes for everything. If you got a guy who's tall, you know, and you try to get him to squat with his feet kind of narrow, you know, he's gonna fall over. He's tall, so he has to take that bigger stance, you know, as opposed to a shorter guy. So like, you know, the form is all relative. You know, as opposed to, you're still doing a bench press, but it's not the same thing as, you know, just powering through it.